Monday, October 25th, Maplewood City Council meeting. You probably noticed that things look a little bit different in the council chambers. We certainly have pivoted a number of times with the pandemic, and we are pivoting again in terms of spacing out so that safety has always been number one here at the city. Safety for certainly our staff, safety for the council members, safety for all of those who are attending our council meeting. And so we are spacing things out so that so people can feel more comfortable. We have, I know Councilmember Juniman, I believe, several weeks ago asked for a memo from our city attorney about virtual meetings. And I certainly had a number of conversations with City Manager Coleman about what we could do in terms of being safe. And this was one of the things that we talked about is at this point in time, based on the numbers. And we are going to be looking very carefully. We have been looking very carefully at the numbers. So if there is going to be another change to virtual, as the mayor of the city, I have the ability to declare that we will go to virtual meetings. And what I will be looking for is if there are 50 positive cases of COVID per 100,000 population for the state of Minnesota. Today, that number was 37.6 positive cases per 100,000. The state right now is looking at 65% of our residents being vaccinated. Ramsey County, in terms of the positive cases, is actually doing better than the entire state. In Ramsey County, the number today was 21.5 positive cases. So you can look forward, if we do, council members, have a need that we get to that 50 positive cases, that number is going to trigger what the state is considering a red alert, and we will be then switching to virtual meetings. I understand from the city attorney, I think that was in our memo, that I would have to give everyone at least a 3-day notice. It's all designed to make sure that we are being as flexible as possible, that we are trying to accommodate as many people as we can, that we still can do a meeting like this in a safe manner. We've got a number of people and they're sitting every other chair out there. Some of you can't see that, but we can up here at the DS. So we are going to continue watching the numbers, and we will make whatever adjustments accordingly. So with that, council members, we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you all want to rise, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Christine, would you please do the roll call for us tonight? And welcome and thank you for stepping in for City Clerk Sint.
Thank you. Councilmember Cave.
Here.
Councilmember Juniman.
Here.
Councilmember Knudsen.
Here.
Councilmember Villavicencio. Here. Mayor Abrams.
I'm here as well. Thank you. Council members, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? I'm going to raise my hand, and we need to remove an item, number 4 under F4, the Fix-It launch update. That was going to be presented to us tonight by Steve Love. He is not able to be here tonight, and so we will have that rescheduled when he does return. So that would be the only amendment that I would add. I also want to add, under council presentations, our Trunk or Treat event on Halloween coming up on Sunday, and I'll add that to council presentations. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. This is just a little public service announcement. It's about stuff in the street.
It's about what?
Stuff in the street.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else? All right. Hearing none then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Did I hear that, everybody? Did
Yes.
everyone vote? Okay.
Yes.
It's a little bit different. We're going to have to adapt again because we're sitting so far out, but we'll work it out. Any opposed? Say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes. Moving on to the approval of the minutes. We don't take questions from the audience at this point in time. We do have agendas on the back. You can certainly follow along with us. Motion to approve the October 11th, 2021 City Council Workshop Meeting Minutes. Is there a motion?
I move approval.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson. The motion to approve the October 11th, 2021 City Council Workshop Meeting Minutes. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Then let's go to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The motion passes. Moving on to the October 11th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the October 11th, 2021 City Council meeting minutes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, then let's go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Moving to appointments and presentations, the administrative presentations, council calendar update. City Manager Coleman, this is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. This item is just informational. It's just to give you a look ahead at what things are coming up on our next agendas and some of the things that we're working for in terms of research for the council. So November 8th, we will have a swearing-in ceremony for a new deputy police chief, a police lieutenant, and 2 police officers. And we're also going to have a presentation of a life-saving award. So that'll be really great to see that. On November 22nd, we will have the Heritage Preservation Commission presentation of their annual Heritage Award. And on December 13th, that will be the evening that we have the public hearing on the 2022 budget and adopt the 22 budget. And just as a way of information, the December 27th meeting was canceled. We did that last year when we put the calendar together. So because of the holidays, we just try to get all of our work done in December. So it'll probably be a long meeting on the 13th, but we won't have to work on the 27th. In terms of items that we're working on, update the parking space requirement that is in process as we continue to look at our rezoning that's necessary with regard to our 2040 comp plan. Goats and buckthorn removal, we will be doing some more work on that to look and see when that might happen next year and if we're going to be able to get those grant funds that Ms. Robbins talked about in her memo to you. We also are going to get a report on the garbage and recycling carts screening and storage ordinance. Mr. Thompson informed me that there will be an article in the December Maplewood Living, or is it the December? And that will be reminding people about the screening and storage requirements for your garbage and recycling bins. And in addition to that, the Community Development Department has also put together or will be putting together a summary for you of other cities' requirements of how they deal with screening and storage issues. And we can do that either a couple of ways. We can do a report to you, or we can put that on a council agenda for a presentation, whichever you prefer there. Thoughts on that?
Certainly, I would like to see a presentation at a council meeting on it. I think that.
I would too.
Doesn't matter. Okay. All right.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that? We okay with the council meeting? Okay.
Okay. All right. We'll get that scheduled. And at this point, Mayor, I'm just happy to take any questions or respond to any inquiries you might have about any topics of interest.
Council members, is there anything you want to add?
No. Okay. Then that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. For council presentations, I wanted to let everyone know that we have a fun event coming up on Halloween. I can't believe it's the end of October by the end of this week. I think October just flew by, but Public Safety Director Beardeman assures me that there will be lots and lots of candy, maybe even too much candy if that's possible. But it is called Trunk or Treat. It's going to be here at City Hall on Halloween. If you're so inclined, wear a costume, and our Public Safety Department is going to be out there passing out candy. There will be games, and it's from 1 to 4 o'clock. It should be a lot of fun. And like I said, I've been assured there is lots and lots of candy. So please come and enjoy. I think it's going to be a fun event. There's also some giveaways, I think, too. Trinkets. Sounds like a fun event. Okay, Councilmember Juniman, you had something you wanted to add.
Yes, the broad category of stuff on the streets. Well, as I walk every day in my own neighborhood, and I know it's other places as well, for some reason things blow into the gutter in front of people's yards and they think that belongs there, I guess. And so there's plastic water bottles and those blankety-blank plastic shopping bags, all those types of things. I'm just asking you, when you go out to your mailbox, could you take a look in your yard to see if anybody's, I know, it's not yours, doesn't matter, we need to pick it up. And then, P.S., this is the time of year when people are cleaning up their yards, and for some reason, some people think it'd be a dandy idea to blow all their leaves into the street. That's a no-no. They actually don't permit it. And secondly, if it goes down the street, it goes into the storm drain, and that's also a no-no since we're trying to keep the water clean. So I guess you're going to have to pick up your own leaves and dispose of them, or cut down all the trees, I suppose, which would be a really bad idea. That's the price we pay for having shade all summer and clean air. You have to rake once a year.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on our agenda, we have a presentation from Dr. Jenny Luck, the Superintendent of Roseville Area Schools, District 623. Welcome.
Can I add an intro comment?
Oh,
here?
sure. City Manager Coleman.
So, Mayor and members of the City Council, Dr. Luck was not able to attend tonight. So, in her place, we have Sherry Thompson, who is going to walk through the presentation, and we're reinvigorating an old system, overhead camera and handouts on the table. Oh no, we're not. We got the computer working. That's right. See, I think I need a break or something. I don't know. My brain is.
Because we couldn't decide how we were doing.
I know. There's just too much change. It's blowing my mind, evidently. Anyway, Sherry, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, thank you very much. And also, I want to start off by saying that Dr. Lake sends her regrets. I saw her in a meeting about 8 o'clock this morning, and she had the sneezes, and then fast forward 6 hours later, and I saw her again, and she had the chills and was heading home. So, again, she does send her regrets. I know she was looking forward to meeting all of you. She just began her new position as the Roseville Area School Superintendent on July 1st. She has actually been in the with Roseville for 24 years. She's come up through the ranks. She was the activities director, the high school principal, assistant superintendent, and most recently, thank you, the superintendent. So again, thanks for having me this evening. My name is Sherry Thompson, and I'm the Director of Business Services for the school district, better known as the Bean Counter. I'm here this evening to share some district updates, including highlights from the 2021 school year. Yes, in the midst of COVID, we do have some highlights. Some COVID updates, also some considerations or celebrations from our 2017 bond referendum that resulted in renovations and some new buildings, and then also our upcoming operating levy that will be on the ballot when you talk about October, yes, already next week. So without further delay, while the last 19 months have been complex, there are also things we learned and ways that we have grown. We learned change can sometimes happen faster than we might think. Learning can take many shapes and forms and happen outside the brick and mortar of a school building. We can do more with teaching and learning using technology than we probably thought possible, and we can do hard things. We are resilient. Here are some additional highlights from last year. We partnered with families in new ways. Some examples include our district roadmap to return team, which then branched out into school roadmap to return schools. And we also held many town halls, while some schools are continuing it yet this year. We worked out to be sure everyone had access to food. There were over 1.3 million meals served from Roseville area schools last year. We removed barriers to technology by handing out 3,000 devices and 400 hotspots for grades K through 6. We also provided teaching and learning via distance learning using Seesaw, Google Classroom, and Schoology. Excuse me. We engaged families in learning in new ways. One parent said, "It was like being in my child's classroom every day." We transformed how we provide professional development for educators and created virtual learning opportunities, both synchronous and asynchronous, using what we call professional development pathways. And we transformed our teaching and learning department into the Office of Educational Equity. While the last year has not been easy, there are things we have learned that we are using to improve our systems overall. And like Superintendent Lake says, return to better. As far as our COVID updates, the safety of our students, staff, and families continues to be of utmost importance. While we have returned to a full in-person learning, we continue to take a layered approach to mitigation strategies. Vaccinations are promoted. We hosted 2 vaccination clinics last spring, and we hope to be hosting more again this year. In Roseville, our school board unanimously passed 2 COVID-19 health and safety resolutions. The first was requiring masks for all, regardless of vaccination status. And secondly, was the choice between required vaccinations or weekly COVID testing for our staff. So quickly, at this time, I'd just like to share some more about our buildings in the Roseville area schools. In 2017, thanks to the support of our community, we passed a bond and made the following commitments to our community. We added classrooms and renovated some areas, many areas. We improved safety and security in our buildings. We created flexible learning spaces. We made a significant investment in our career and technical education facilities and performing arts spaces. If you haven't had the opportunity, get over to our middle school and high school, and you'll see the great opportunities that we have for our kids there. We have much to celebrate, and all the projects have been completed on time and on budget. We also have a new facility, a Betu Techa Education Center. It's formerly on the old Fairview site. That houses many different programs. Abetu Techa means a new day, and we felt it was appropriate at the time with the new facility there. So now we'll transition to my last topic. So research shows that the quality of our schools impacts the quality of our community. It's Dr. Lake's job as superintendent to do all we can to assure our students get the kind of education they deserve and our community expects. While we do our best to live within our means, sometimes we need additional support from our community. To that end, after more than a year of planning and review, our school board unanimously approved placing 2 school funding requests on the November ballot. We want to be sure, our community understands these requests and can make an informed vote when they go to the polls. This presentation will give you the context for the ballot requests, and I'll be glad to take any questions at the end. First, a reminder of who we are as a school district. We have a long and proud history of providing strong educational programs, a talented, caring staff, and a shared vision of excellence. We are also fortunate to have decades of generous and reliable financial support from our community, which has enabled us to meet the educational needs of our students and their families. We work hard to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars and to be financially transparent and credible. We recently received the Certificate of Excellence for excellent comprehensive financial reporting, demonstrating our commitment to transparency and accountability. The district's credit rating was recently upgraded by Moody's Financial Services. So now we'll just see. I have a video here, but maybe I don't. It doesn't look like I do. So now you're going to miss the 3-minute video with kids. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I'll drop the mic. Is this the video?
Yeah, that should be the video. I'm wondering if she sent over the PDF.
Yeah, no, this is the document. Yeah, it's got it right there.
But as far as some highlights on the operating levy, our voter-approved operating levy is a critical source of funding for us. If it isn't renewed in November, we will lose $8 million annually. That's on about a $105 million budget. We also know that if we only renew the levy but don't get more revenue, cuts will continue. Based on this, the board unanimously approved asking voters to consider 2 ballot questions in November. Question 1 would renew our existing levy, and question 2 would increase that levy. Question 2 is contingent on question 1, which means question 1 must pass before question 2 can be approved. It's important to note that the levy amount per student, which will be listed on the ballot, is not the amount each homeowner would be taxed. The tax impact is spread across the entire community. So for the average homeowner, for our district and the school district, the median value is about $281,000. So the net monthly tax impact is about $22 per month. The ballot lists it as a per pupil unit of $905 per student. So it's important to understand the consequences of a success or failure of both questions. The next slides spell out the various scenarios that are possible. As shown here, passage of question 1 would help lessen major cuts, but we would not be able to address any of our critical needs. And in fact, ongoing cuts would still be needed. If question 1 fails, we would face significant cuts in several areas and take quite a hit on our financial health. Question 2, if question 2 passes, we would have funds available to address some critical needs, such as class sizes, various student supports, and academic programs. These are areas our community has identified as a priority in our schools. It would also strengthen our financial stability. This slide outlines what will take place if question 2 fails and no additional revenue is provided. There would be staff and program cuts in a range of areas. We would have to increase fees, and our financial health would suffer as we would continue to make budget cuts. So in summary, we have 2 ballot questions, one to renew our existing levy that expires at the end of this year, and a second to increase that levy. Question 2, again, is contingent on question 1, so can only pass if voters first approve question 1. If both questions are approved, we would be able to support enhance our students' classroom experiences and provide more financial stability for our school district. Again, the items listed here were all items that were identified by our community. And if either or both requests fail, we will have continued cuts and not be able to address these priorities. We do have further information on our website at www.isd623.org/levy 2021. Again, our school board unanimously approved bringing these requests to our voters because they believe that our students are a vital part of our community and our students are our future. We are now preparing voter information materials that are also on our website, and I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thompson. Council members, do you have any questions for Ms. Thompson? Councilmember Juniman.
Actually, I don't have a question, I have a comment. Thank you, Sherry, for filling in, but tell Dr. Lake we were looking forward to meeting her, so maybe she can come some other time.
She will.
Thank you. And I do want to encourage anybody who lives in the Roseville Schools part of Maplewood to strongly consider this levy. A little history. We've lived in our house for 47 years, and when we moved in that very first fall, we were informed by the neighbors that we live in the Roseville Schools and we have never turned down a referendum. So it was sort of like an expectation was laid upon us. And I'm actually very happy and proud to say that it has stayed that way the 47 years we've been there because the Roseville Schools have a very good reputation. And I'm a very strong supporter of all public schools, of course, but I'm a little biased toward Roseville since that's where I live. But I also encourage people who are my age bracket to remember that someone else educated your kids and paid taxes so your kids would have a good education. And then for those of us who don't have kids, I always tell my neighbors, no, I didn't have anybody go to school every day and take advantage of this. However, one of them might push my wheelchair someday, and I certainly would like them to have some values. So I encourage you to go to the website and look up the information. And I encourage you strongly to consider voting yes. These are important things for our kids. Thanks for coming, Sherry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Juniman. Councilmember Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I just have one question for you, but just as a background, my three boys went to Roseville schools, and one of the things that happened is John Tyne, the superintendent at that time, recognized that I couldn't run for school board, but I ought to do some other things. So he had me run a project to look at property. And the question I have is, at that time, Roseville had about 1 million square feet of buildings under cover, and that was an issue where the state had a special circumstance for that. Is that still in place, or is that?
That is still in place. And actually, we do exceed that million. They've changed their deferred maintenance program at the state of Minnesota. So there are 25 districts that were grandfathered in. And thanks to your work, Roseville is one of them. So
Yeah.
we appreciate that.
He actually had me study the per pupil equivalent book, which is about that thick.
Yes.
I think I was the only one ever that read the whole thing. But it's fast. And I can endorse what you're saying and what Councilmember June said. It's a very well-run district. And what I did one time is he asked me to lead a campaign to get out the vote. What I recognized is that seniors vote heavily for education, and in Roseville in particular, they stayed in their homes. So it was a great opportunity, and it was a lot of fun actually going door to door, talking to seniors about voting for a school where they don't have any kids. So, and it worked well. So
Yes.
again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, we've been very fortunate, and our seniors do stay in their homes. And now when they do move, they move into the new senior living. Yes, we've seen families come in. And when you mention Dr. Tyne, yes, his philosophy always, we have been conservative. We don't run a huge fund balance,
Right.
but as he would say, and I'm sure you heard this as well over the years, we're not in the banking business, we're in the kid business. But we do also need to have adequate reserves to run those programs. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson, for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Mayor?
Thank you.
Councilmember Juniman? is there
Excuse me,
anything else?
just one more thing. She said in this report, and people have commented to me, people in our neighborhood who don't have kids, that they were astounded that every building got basically a major upgrade, and they were all done on time. That was so impressive to people that they stay on top of it, they make it happen, and it's done right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, we removed F4 from the agenda. Moving on to F5, the resolution for commissioner appointments. City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. At our last meeting on October 11th, the City Council interviewed 7 candidates for 5 commission openings. Currently, there are 2 openings on the Heritage Preservation Commission, and we had 4 applicants. We had 1 opening on the Housing and Economic Development Commission, and we had 1 applicant. And 2 openings on the Environmental and Natural Resource Commission, and there were 2 applicants. At the conclusion of those interviews, City Council was asked to rank the applicants, and that resulted in appointments, which I will just explain. We are looking for action tonight from the council to approve the resolution that's attached in your packet to appoint the commissions, as I'm going to indicate here. On the HPC, or Heritage Preservation Commission, Barbara Kern received the votes to get a term that expires on April 30th of 2024. David Hughes got the term that expires April 30th, 2022. And I would just like to add that we do have a new staff liaison to the Heritage Preservation Commission. When Mr. Sable left us, Joe Sharon volunteered to be the staff liaison to the HPC. So thank you, Joe, for stepping up. On the Housing and Economic Development Commission, there was 1 opening, and Holly Akep got appointed to that, and she has a term that expires on September 30th, 2024. On the Environmental and Natural Resource Commission, there were 2 openings. Emma Brodnick's got the term expiring on September 30th, 2024, as did Benjamin Gould with the same term expiring September 30th of 2024. And just so anyone who's listening that is one of the applicants, the staff liaison to those groups will be reaching out to you for some orientation activities and getting you ready for your first meeting. And with that, Mayor, we just need a motion to approve the resolution to appoint the candidates as indicated.
Thank you. Council members, is there a motion?
I motion approval of the attached resolution to appoint the candidates to the commissions as indicated below.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Cave, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the attached resolution to appoint the candidates to the commissions as indicated. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Juniman.
Although I was not present at the last meeting, I did watch the interviews, so I was able to vote.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Juniman. Any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, then let's go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Well, I should say, were there any nays? I saw everybody. Quite different running these this way now. Okay, so the motion passes. And we have one other agenda item under appointments and presentations, the resolution of appreciation for Keith Buttleman, Environmental and Natural Resources Commissioner. Ms. Finwall, you are the presenter for this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. So tonight we're here to pay recognition to a commissioner who has left us. Keith Buttleman was on the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission, and Keith recently resigned from the commission. He was on the commission for 5 years and 8 months, from January 25, 2016 to September 30, 2021. The Environmental and Natural Resources Commission did recommend approval of a resolution of appreciation for Keith Buttleman, which we are bringing forward to you tonight. Would you like me to read the resolution, or?
I don't know that that's necessary.
Okay. And it does, of course, give our accolades to Keith, who was a a well-respected member of our commission. In particular, he did great voiceovers for many of our nature center programming. At the end of the meeting, we would always present the programs, and Keith had a great radio voice. And of course, all of his other great insights. So with that, I stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Finwall? Mr. Buttleman, we certainly thank you for your time. I always am amazed at our residents and how they volunteer to serve on commissions, because it takes a lot of work and dedication, and we thank him for his service. So let's move
Mayor,
to.
we have to accept the
I
resolution.
know,
don't
we're going to move to, is there a motion to accept it?
Yes. I move to
Would you like
accept.
to make it?
Yes, I move to the resolution of appreciation for Keith Buttleman, Environmental and Natural Resources Commission.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson. The motion to approve a resolution of appreciation for Keith Buttleman, Environmental and Natural Resources Commissioner. Any further discussion?
Mayor, one comment.
Yes.
Mr. Buttleman, when he moved here, I first just ran into him here at City Hall, and he said he wanted me to know that the reason he moved to Maplewood from out east when they came, they looked all around the Twin Cities, was because of our environmental programs and how we preserve nature and are dedicated to it. So,
That's very nice. Any further discussion? Okay, then let's take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Hearing and seeing none, the motion passes. Council members, we move on to our consent agenda. We have 8 items. Is there a motion concerning the consent agenda?
Move approval of consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Juniman. The motion to approve the consent agenda, items G 1 through 8. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none.
Mayor,
Councilmember Juniman.
thank you. I would just like to highlight G8, please.
Okay. G8. Let's see, who's going to be our staff person on that one?
Dawn.
Ms. Finwall, is that you? I have to get to find G8 here.
146.
It is, Ms. Finwall. G8, the 2022 SCORE grant funding application has been highlighted. Could you give us just a little bit of background on this, please?
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. So every year, the city of Maplewood is awarded a grant from Ramsey County to help us fund our recycling program, and that's called the SCORE grant. And this year, the city of Maplewood, I should say for 2022, is eligible for $123,404 for our recycling program, which is up from last year. And there's an agreement that we will sign once we submit the grant proposal, and that agreement outlines certain conditions the city of Maplewood must comply with our recycling program. Generally speaking, of course, that will supply curbside recycling, which of course we do with our contract with Tennis Sanitation. There's some other requirements for increasing recycling in public spaces, ensuring that we collect textiles, and so on. And for the last, I think, 2 years, they now have what they call an incentive program. So in order to get the full funding in the city of Maplewood's case, the base funding is $103,659, and then the incentive is $19,745. And so in order to get that additional $19,000 some, we will be required to take on a few more, challenges for our recycling program. In particular, bulky waste collection, engaging small businesses in curbside recycling services, and the county, they actually work with the city after the grant agreement is submitted to determine how to make those improvements over the year. And one thing with the city of Maplewood is we've done all of these incentives already, so we really have to start getting creative as to what we do. But we'll find something that will get us that grant funding and help improve our recycling program. So with that, we are requesting that you approve the grant funding agreement with the county for the 2022 SCORE grant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Juniman, is there anything else you want to say about
I
it?
just want to point out one of the things that's under the basic grant and the things people may not realize we're working on kind of on an ongoing basis. Implement a green purchasing procurement policy for city functions and facilities to use reusable, recyclable, or compostable packaging. You'll notice when we had the employee picnic, for instance, up there was compostable dishes and places. That's part of this, but we'd be doing it whether they asked us to or not. But nonetheless, we are, like she said, we're doing all these, so they're going to have to think of some new incentives. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, council members, we had a motion and a second. Let's move to a vote on the consent agenda items G 1 through 8. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes for the consent agenda. Moving on to public hearings, we have one item tonight, the EDA Tax Increment Financing District, number 1-15. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Earlier this evening, the Economic Development Authority took 3 actions. One, it adopted a new tax increment district or tax increment financing plan for a new housing district for the Maplewood apartments, Lower Afton apartments on London Lane, and then approved a contract with the developer for that. For the benefit of those that may be here for the public hearing, we've pared down the presentation just to go through that, though, for just an overview of what now is the same plan. There's no difference in the tax increment plan that's before the council, but it does require a public hearing for the council before adoption. So it's the property on 2501 London Lane, a site that's currently owned by the city, but for which we have a purchase agreement with Real Estate Equities or a new entity that they've created, REE Maplewood Apartments, to purchase the property, tear down the former fire station, and construct a new 148-unit multifamily workforce housing project on that site. So we're here specifically for the tax increment financing application that they have submitted to the city to support the affordable housing component of the project. The tax increment plan, or the use of tax increment financing, supports a number of the housing goals that are established in our 2040 comprehensive plan, including ensuring that there's a diversity of housing options within Maplewood, and that we are improving the availability of affordable housing units, not only for homeownership, but also for renters in the community, and that will provide or encourage that affordable housing being included in redevelopment projects, and just, again, to support that creation of new units. So this is the project. As I mentioned, it's 148 units multifamily building. We'll get later in the agenda, for those that may be here for the land use applications, we'll do a separate presentation for the development review of this site. But for the new tax increment plan, there are 60% of the units, 40% of the units, which is 60 units total, that would be set aside for households making 60% of the area median income, and then 52 units at 80% area median income, and then the remaining are not income restricted. So with that, we do have Keith Dahl here from Ehlers and Associates, again, just to highlight the major elements of the tax increment plan, which are the subject of the public hearing before the council this evening.
Thank you. Keith, welcome.
Thank
we just saw you a little while ago.
I know. Mayor, members of the City Council, the TIF plan is a planning document. It overviews the tax increment financing district. It overviews the statutory authority. It overviews the objectives of the project. It has the project scope. And it also has the budget. And the budget is presented as a maximum amount, meaning that with a housing TIF district, the maximum term is 26 years. Even though it's not the intent to provide that level of assistance to this development, statute requires that the TIF plan be presented in a maximum amount, even though the full 26 years is not being provided to the developer for assistance. So the numbers presented are for 26 years, even though that's not what we're recommending for approval. The other thing to keep in mind is that this is a planning document. It's the mechanism to be able to provide the assistance to the developer, so it does not specify the terms or conditions for the public assistance. What I can say is the EDA has recommended for approval 10 years of TIF assistance, which amounts to about $2.24 million, so it will not be the full term of the district. A TIF plan essentially answers 3 questions. The first question is, does it qualify for a tax increment financing district, specifically housing? And the answer to this question is yes. For a housing TIF district to be created, either 20% of the units need to be affordable at 50% AMI to households, or 40% of the units need to be affordable to households making 60% of the area median income. With this specific project being proposed by Real Estate Equities, they're putting 40% of the units affordable at 60% AMI, and so yes, it does qualify for a housing TIF district. The second question is, does the TIF district generate positive tax increment? And within the TIF plan, it does generate positive tax increment. And then the final question is, in the future, the foreseeable future, but for the assistance, can this development be built in similar nature? And the answer to that is no. And the but for question is answered further within the TIF plan, but I can turn it back over to Mr. Thompson for questions and next steps.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson?
So thank you, Mayor. So there are 2 actions we're requesting from the council tonight. One, to hold the public hearing. We've published that for this evening. And then the second is, upon closing the public hearing, to adopt the resolution. It's very similar. We have provided to the EDA resolution, we have provided a revised copy that we put in your dais this evening that just makes a very modest change recommended by the attorney to one of the attachments. So with that, we are here available for your questions.
Okay, council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Thompson? Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Could you, for the people who are listening, it's nice to say 60% AMI, but what the heck does that mean in Maplewood? If we give numbers to things, I think people can get a little better feel for what this means.
I probably took
Please.
that. Can I flop over to that slide? Just Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Juniman. So this is the general information for the metropolitan area. Both for the top left is area median income. So that's based on the metropolitan statistical area of the greater Twin Cities. And so that's for a family of 4. So 80% of area median income for a family 4 means the household income is just under $80,000. And then also for a family of 4, 60% of the area median income would be just under $63,000. So those are the median household incomes. I'm sorry, those are the household incomes that would qualify for those rents at 80% and 60%. And then the chart below that just relates that to based on the percentage of their income dedicated towards housing costs that are allowed, what those rents would be. Again, highlighted in yellow, the first column in yellow is the 60% AMI units. So for this project, for a 1-bedroom would be a maximum of just under $1,200 per month for a 1-bedroom, up to just over $1,600 for a 3-bedroom unit. And then the second column there, also in yellow, are the corresponding rents for an 80% household unit. So anywhere from $1,574 per month up to almost $2,200 for a 3-bedroom unit. And then I just put on the right-hand side just some comparisons for Maplewood's community profiles for 2019, just noting that these household incomes are targeting the Maplewood community of today, that our 2019 median household income for our community is over $70,000 per household, and our average rent on our existing housing stock is just over $1,100.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Knudsen.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Thompson, so the benchmark, so to speak, or I guess it would be benchmark, is the area, not just Maplewood. In other words, that graph. So if that same number, a median household income, does that compare to average median income, or is that a different statistic? It would seem to be the same.
Mayor and Councilmember Knutson, do you mean the 70,484?
Right.
So that's all households in Maplewood. So if you took all of our households, the median income is that dollar amount in 2019 dollars.
How does that compare to the average median income from the greater area?
Oh, it's higher. So, we compare it to both the state of Minnesota and Ramsey County. Our household income is slightly higher than the median incomes of both Ramsey County and the larger metropolitan area.
But that average median income of 104,900, is that for a family of?
Family of four.
Four.
Yeah.
But that's for the greater metropolitan area?
Correct. It's a little confusing when we get into the affordable housing requirements. It's based on household size. What the median income is based on individual household size, from one person up to the four-person. So we just like to use
So
the
the key
four-person.
thing is the chart on the left, it's interesting for the Maplewood community profile, but it's only interesting.
The chart on the left?
Is the one we use
Correct.
to establish, like in the agreements and with the documents, there are specific formulas, sheets that the developer has to fill out to make sure that they meet this, and they'd be using this area median income.
Mayor and Council, that's correct.
Okay.
Council members, are there any other questions? Okay, then let me explain what's going to happen. I am going to open up the public hearing with my gavel. And is there anyone, Christine, who has signed up to speak on this particular issue of the TIF? That's what we're talking about now.
Mayor, there is not anyone signed up.
Okay, if anyone wants to talk concerning the financing, this TIF issue that we're considering, you need to sign up. I will open up the public hearing. I will ask anyone who wants to speak. They'll need to sign in. They'll have 3 minutes to speak, and then we'll continue if there's anyone else who wants to speak to the issue. Then I will close the public hearing. The public hearing is designed for the public to comment to the council. If there are any questions or anything that need to be answered, then I will defer to Mr. Thompson or the representative from Ellers to respond to any questions. After that, then the council will have a discussion concerning this issue, and then the council has before it a motion concerning the TIF that we will formally consider. So that's really what's going to happen next. So I am going to open up the public hearing concerning the modification of the Development District Program for Development District Number 1 and the tax increment financing plan for TIF District Number 1-15. Is there anyone who would like to speak concerning this issue? Is there anyone who would like to speak? Yes. Would you like to join us up at the DS?
Hi.
Would you please give your name? You'll need to sign in then afterwards so that we can get your name for the record.
My name is Kathleen Coolidge, and I'm a resident of the Connemara condominiums next door to where the proposed property is. I have just a couple of comments. First of all, I'm a housing support specialist through Department of Human Services, so I work with Section 8 residents and different housing projects throughout Ramsey County, Hennepin, and Maplewood. One of the concerns that I have is there's several. One is the roads. Each way to get into our property, which includes the property that is proposed to be built, are only two-way highways.
Can I just caution you? What we're considering right now is concerning the TIF district alone. The
Oh, okay.
actual land use and the proposal is coming on later.
Okay.
And even though we don't have a public hearing opportunity at that, you already had an opportunity at the Planning Commission. I am going to ask if there is anyone, because I know we had over 35 comments that were included in our packet. So I will be giving people an opportunity at
Okay.
that time. But do you have any comments that you'd like to make concerning the proposal for a TIF district?
No, I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you
Okay.
bet.
Thank
bet.
you.
Is there anyone else who would like to talk concerning the TIF district? Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Council members, it now goes to us. We have a motion before us. Is there anyone who'd like to comment on this or ask any further questions? Okay, then, council members, there is a motion. Would someone make that motion?
Motion to approve the resolution approving modification of the Development District Program for Development District Number 1 and the Tax Increment Financing Plan for Tax Increment Financing District Number 1-15.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the resolution approving modification of the Development District Program for Development District Number 1 and the Tax Increment Financing Plan for Tax Increment Financing District Number 1-15. Council members, is there any other discussion? Hearing and seeing none, then let's go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. I saw everybody say aye that time. Okay, so moving on, we have some unfinished business. We have the resolution awarding the sale of geo-refunding bonds. Ms. Pulseth, this is yours.
You do have some materials on the dais that pertain.
Just one second. You know, Mr. Jerish, do you want to tell the people that I think that we're here that we're going to consider the next issue, or we'll consider the issue of the London Lane project before they leave? They may want to hear that. I think there may be some confusion about that. Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Pulseth.
That's okay. It's quite all right. You have some materials on the dais that I wanted to point out. These are updated materials. In September, the council authorized the sale of the 2021B general obligation refunding bonds. The purpose for those bonds was to refinance some existing debt that the city had at that time. Our consultants, our municipal advisors estimated approximately $800,000 in interest savings. That sale was this morning at 11 o'clock, and our municipal advisors and bond counsel have been working on the structure of the bonds and on this sale day report for you. So I want to point out that you do have a sale day report that Mr. Kimmel will be walking you through in a few minutes, and also an S&P Global Ratings report that he will also discuss. And the resolution is this very large, thick packet. That's all of these materials are updated to incorporate the numbers from this morning's sale. So, Madam Mayor, with that, I would request that you would recognize Mr. Bruce Kimmel from Ellers.
Mr. Kimmel, do you want to join us, please, up at the microphone? Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be back, Mayor and council members, and to be sharing good news with you today. So I will just be hitting some highlights from the sale day report that Ms. Paulseth mentioned, and the rating report from S&P as well. We received 4 bids on the city's behalf this morning at 11 a.m., and the winning bid came from BOK Financial Securities out of Milwaukee. Their all-inclusive interest rate was 1.17%. And that was just a little bit higher than what we had presented to you last month, but still right in the ballpark and achieving earnings or savings for the city of about $800,000, as Ms. Paulseth mentioned. I won't go over too much more on this competitive sale result page, but I do want to note, because you'll see this in the resolution, that we went to the market with a bond issue for $8,275,000. And because of the premium bid that was received from BOK, we were able to downsize the bond issue to $8,090,000. So the updated resolution from your bond counsel at Kenny and Graven will reflect that amount, and that is going to be sufficient to give us the proceeds we need to refinance the 3 outstanding issues that will be called with this refinancing. And just to recall, it's your 2012, 2013, and 2014 A bonds. What's neat about this is not only are you reducing the debt service, but you're also saving money in terms of the administrative costs, because instead of paying the various costs related to 3 separate bond issues, now all of those bond issues will be rolled into one. So some annual savings for the city in that regard as well. Moving on to the bid tabulation page, you can see BOK's winning bid there in first place. I did want to just point out that you'll see the coupon or the face interest rates on the bonds started at 3% and went down to 2%. But the actual yields, the true borrowing cost for the city, is ranging from 3.3% to 1.65%. So that difference between that face coupon and the true yield, the true cost to the city, is what generates that premium. And it was those additional dollars that we were able to use to reduce the size of the bond issue. We had a very similar situation with the fire station refinancing earlier this year. You may recall that we reduced the size of the bond issue in that situation as well. I did also want to note on the bid tabulation, you can see that the second and third place bids were extremely close to the first place bid. Northland was only a basis point higher, and Piper was only 4 basis points higher than the winning bid. So really aggressive bidding for the city's bonds. Baird was a little bit off the pace at 131, but even that, we're seeing a little bit of volatility in today's market, so I was really pleased that we were able to get such a good turnout from some of the best and most consistent bidders that we see in the municipal marketplace, and that the bidding was really aggressive. I won't go through all of the debt schedules, although actually I only included 5 pages here, but there's actually, I think, close to 50 pages because there's so many different sub-purposes within the 3 bond issues that we are refinancing. But if you'll go to a page called Debt Service Comparison, you'll see these savings, net savings for the city that I've been referring to. So if you look at the right-hand column on the debt service comparison page, which is a few pages into the debt schedules, you can see in that right-hand column, this is the apples-to-apples true net savings for the city comparing old debt to new debt. And you can see how that tallies up to just under $800,000. So the amounts per year will vary a little bit. It's kind of a bell curve. It starts small and then peaks at about $130,000 per year and then goes down again. But altogether over the next 13 years, you'll have some pretty significant savings. And on a present value basis, they total about 8% of the refunded debt service. Usually on refundings, we try to have at least 3% present value savings. So having 8% is quite a bit better, and kudos and congratulations on that result. Before I go on to the credit rating, does anyone have any questions about today's bond sale or what the results will mean for the city's debt service? Okay. Well, then I just wanted to give you a brief overview of the credit rating. I believe you saw this in your council packets over the weekend as well, and the city's AA+ rating was affirmed with flying colors. As usual, Ms. Paulseth and her team, as well as Mr. Thompson, did an awesome job on the credit rating call, both in preparing for that call and telling the city's story to the credit analysts. And everything went extremely smoothly. I would point out that the measures that you have in terms of almost all of the financial performance metrics are just really off the charts, very strong. We know that the way S&P measures debt burden, you're on so-called weak on that profile, but they understand that that descriptor is only because of how they measure with their percentages debt profile, in that you are amortizing that debt very quickly and have a very clear and well thought out plan for managing debt going forward. So I didn't want anyone to think that that was a real credit weakness in any way, because they understand the city's debt plan and how you're planning on reducing your debt load over time. And I would also just, again, give credit to you as the decision makers, as well as your financial and administrative staff in implementing your vision. The S&P analysts basically said they wish everyone could be as well prepared as the city of Maplewood was. So it made their job very easy, and it reflected very well on the city. Do any of you have any questions about the rating report or any of the elements in that? I should say, just for people maybe watching and not familiar with credit ratings, that AA+ is the second best possible rating you can get besides AAA. And in today's market, with the investors still fleeing for or looking for security, having that AA+ rating really helps to attract very strong interest rates. So it does make a difference, all the time and effort you put into the budget, but also that your staff does as well.
It's a very good report. Thank you, Ms. Paulseth, Mr. Thompson, and anyone else who sat in on it. Thank you, Mr. Kimmel, for helping us with this. This is really quite remarkable. And a great savings for all of our residents. I'll just say it again. We're saving $800,000, and we are
Amazing.
We have a great plan in terms of paying off our debt. I'm really proud of what we have been able to do financially here in the city. So, council members, Councilmember Knudsen.
A few months ago, when I think you or someone from others here, nobody wanted to hear about arbitrage. I happen to love arbitrage. Can you give us 2 minutes on arbitrage? The timing of when we sell the bonds, or when the timing and have to repay, there is a lapse there, isn't there?
Well, so these bonds will just wipe out the old bonds, right? So come this coming February 1, you'll make your last payments on all those old bonds, and the new bonds will take over. So you'll have about 2 months in which you'll have the bond proceeds. Unfortunately, only 2 months, and then you'll use these bond proceeds to pay off the old debt. So I'm with you. I love arbitrage too, because it's if you can earn it, do it, right? We will be talking with Ms. Paulseth and her team about some options. Obviously, they're expert investment managers already, but there might be some opportunity to get a few more basis points of yield while we're waiting to pay off the old bonds. But I wish, Councilmember Knudsen, I could tell you, yes, we have a great plan for earning lots of money on the proceeds.
I do have a serious question, but
Okay, what is your serious question? Let's go to that.
Well, I was just thinking of the process of identifying and looking into these opportunities. Was it Ms. Paulseth, yourself, or is it a team of people? How does that work? Just for public interest, because looking through these opportunities is a very important part of vigilance, I would guess.
Yeah, it is, Councilmember Knudsen. And every quarter we run our own reports at Ellers on the city's existing debt to see if anything is an immediate opportunity or a percolating opportunity that we should keep an eye on. And these bonds, we've probably been looking at, Ellie, for 3 years almost, or at least the time that we've been working together, to say, hey, because of the coupons on those old bonds, we would predict that they could be really good refunding opportunities. And earlier this year, we had a in-depth conversation about whether we might want to try to do a taxable advance refunding of the bonds. That's the only way right now that you can do sort of an earlier refunding. But we decided, looking at the pros and cons, it really made sense to wait for this current refunding opportunity. And it was the right call because interest rates stayed low and the tax-exempt rates are obviously better than taxable rates would have been this spring. But you've got a great team that takes this seriously. Sometimes I send out rating updates and can barely get folks to look at them. And Ellie and Joe are always very engaged in wanting to see what opportunities there are and to kick the tires on what might make the most sense. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Any other discussion questions from the council? Okay, then there is a revised motion from the recommended action in our council packet, a new amount. Would someone like to make that? Okay, then I'll make it. The motion to approve the resolution awarding the sale of general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2021B, in the original aggregate principal amount of $8,090,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, providing for their payment, and providing for the redemption of bonds refunded thereby.
Second.
Moved by Abrams, seconded by Knudsen. The motion that I won't read again. It's a really long one, but I think you got it. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, then let's go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Okay, the motion passes. Thank you again, Ms. Paulseth and Mr. Thompson and Mr. Rube for helping us with this and taking such good care of our finances. So thank you for that. Moving on, we have the award of the 2020 Charitable Gambling Funds. Ms. Coleman?
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. Each year, the city solicits for requests for charitable gambling funds, and every year we have much more requests than we have available funds, and that happened again this year. The city received 10 applications with almost $45,000 in requests for projects that fall under the category of social supports and senior citizen services. The amount allowed to be awarded is $30,000. At the last meeting, City Council got all of the materials from the applications, and you were then asked to come up with your recommended award. This year, the award amounts were $4,200 to Child Inc., $1,000 to School District 622 Education Foundation, their Angel Fund, and we had $5,000 to the Gladstone Meals on Wheels program, which I am pleased to say that many of our staff here volunteered to deliver meals for Meals on Wheels, and it is really a pleasure to see that our seniors are getting the meals that they need. We also had an award of $2,380 to the Gladstone Senior Center, which is a community gathering place for our senior community. Webster Elementary School received an award of $2,730, and our Redeemer Lutheran Church received $7,230, and Tubman Family Alliance $7,460, and that totals the $30,000 in which we had to award this year. The votes were tallied, and those are also included in your packet. And so you can see how those numbers were arrived at. I would be happy to answer any questions if you have them about the material here before you this evening. We are looking for you to approve the proposed award amounts as indicated in your staff report.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Questions? Councilmember Cave.
More of a comment. I just wanted to thank all the people who came last time who were actually able to come here and give us a small presentation. I thought that was very nice. And it just shows, how we split it up into two groups for 3 years, just how much money you think you have, and there's so much need out there. And it felt so good to be able to give to the groups, and it's also very sad that there's a few that didn't get everything that they wanted, but there's such a strong need out there in our community, and we have such a strong community. The church that came here and spoke to us about how many people just come and volunteer, and how much food is given out by all the church and the community groups out there. I just want to thank you for all that you're doing, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
And just a reminder for everybody that next year, the focus of our charitable gambling funds will be youth programs and community engagement and events. That will be the two areas that we will be focusing on, and we'll similarly have $30,000, I think, to distribute. So any further discussion, questions, or comments? Then is there a motion?
I move to accept the recommendation of staff regarding the charitable gambling distribution.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Cave. The motion to accept the proposed award amounts included in our packets. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, then all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Going on to new business, we have our on the agenda, the Retail Theft Diversion Program contract, and Lieutenant Steiner is going to be speaking to that, I believe. Welcome, Lieutenant Steiner.
Thank you. Council, staff, I'm going to be very brief. I have John McCullough from Diversion Solutions here. That's actually going to give you a brief presentation on the theft diversion program. I would like to just say a couple of things. The program focuses on community outreach and restorative justice. It's a great opportunity for us to house this program within Maplewood and not be dependent on county resources. Overall goal is to change criminal behavior and prevent recidivism. It's pre-charge diversion opposed to post-charge diversion. So basically, this is giving first-time offenders for misdemeanor theft a second chance. So, John?
Sure. Mayor, council members, I want to thank the Public Safety Department for giving us a call and allowing us to talk about our diversion program. We're very proud of the work that we've done. And again, my name's Sean McCullough. I'm president with Divergent Solutions. We're out of Minneapolis, and I helped start the company 21 years ago. So we are a special benefits corporation that's recognized by the state of Minnesota. It's for adults. You already have a juvenile diversion program, but this is for the adults. And it's a retail theft program. It was established in 2018. It improves the offender through education, efficiency for law enforcement in responding. So we're not tying up more resources on the typical shoplifting, low-level offender, first-time offenders, generally speaking. And it strictly allows the city prosecutor to make the final determination whether they're actually entered into diversion or not. That's not our decision. We're not part of that decision. We are pretty much an administrator for the program to make sure that the person that's referred into the program meets all their obligations and is accountable. To support this, any size business can utilize the diversion program, provided it gets referred to the prosecutor. It's thefts under $500. Prosecutor, again, has to review the case. Diversion Solutions is going to do, we call it the big box retailers. We're going to train the big box retailers. We're doing that now in Burnsville, which is a lot of fun, because they all have different little policies and procedures, but we need to follow a consistent path as prescribed by the prosecutor in public safety. So with that, we're responsible for the training, not law enforcement per se. We will be working hand in hand, collaborative on how we train. First few training sessions to make sure we're doing them right. They're going to participate with us. The offender is not going to be issued a citation at the time that they're detained. Nobody is going to be refused this program provided they meet the qualifications for entering into the diversion program. Another way of saying that, if they're not cooperative, they have drugs, they have other issues going on, that's solely up to the discretion of the law enforcement officer on issuing a citation, dealing with that problem maybe separately on a different charge. We don't get into that. We work with the prosecutor to get the individuals entered into the program. So I want to make real clear on that. And by the way, we don't charge a dime to the city. I want to make sure the city attorney knows that, because he helped write the contract. So there's no cost. We're not going to send you a bill. We've been doing this for 20 years, and we're very sustainable the way we do business. The theft, the individual that has committed the theft, what we're looking for from that individual is that they attend a one-time class, and it's intense. And it's a $75 fee. That's how we do it. We don't charge any more than that. The individual then will get education on what we call the cause and effect cycles of why did they do it. And a lot of times it's pressure from other kids. Other times they just don't have the money. And those kind of issues will come up. And we do look at how much it costs the retailer. I don't know if you realize this or not. I've been in the business of, I don't like to use the exact number. Let's say it's over 30 years in loss prevention. And I work for the department store company, Dayton's. Everybody remembers Dayton's. Now it's Macy's over there. And the studies that we did, 20 for every one item someone would steal, it took 23 like items to break even before you made your dollar back on that. We know that, forgive the city attorney over here, but if you start involving city attorneys or the prosecutors, the courts, law enforcement's time, the hearing, the court time to reschedule things, first appearance if they fight it, or if they just pay the tickets, not quite as much. But the bottom line is it can cost well over $1,000 per shoplifting case, and it's under $500. That's not a good return on your investment. And so we cover what constitutes a crime, impact of the business and retail costs. We look specifically at their own responsibility in life. And we require them to also do an apology letter to the retailer. And how did we come to all this? Why does it work? Well, up in Duluth, we were approached. We didn't approach them. They approached us saying, we heard about you guys. Can you help us with a theft diversion program? Scott Atkinson, our CEO, went up there, and I said, good luck with this one, Scott. And Scott said, we got to figure this one out. So we spent 2 years piloting this program. We cut our teeth up there. And fortunately, the public defender was elated because he knew what the unintended consequences of giving an adult a theft record, how much of an impact that can have on an individual and not have any other way to basically, without doing an expungement after they plead guilty and paying, anywhere from $900 to $1,500 for an expungement. And it's very costly. So with that being said, Scott worked on a program with the city attorney and also the prosecutor up there. We had, in Super One was our pilot location. Super One is a grocery store up there, similar to what you'd say Colburn's, or not quite Cub, but more like Colburn's. They had 231 referrals. Would you like to guess how many people repeated their activity? 0. None. So we know it works. We are now rolling out in Burnsville the program. Moorhead is in the process of rolling, so is Dilworth. And we have numerous, can't say which cities because I think it's not right to do that, but we have a number of cities I'm working with directly right now in the metro. We have 24 years of serving the community through diversion and restorative justice programs. You may have heard of us. We do all Hennepin County fifth-degree felonies and other theft-type crimes that get referred to us in the felony ranges, and some gross misdemeanor. So we want to restore responsibility to the participant's life. In other words, make them accountable for what has happened, and still have compassionate interaction with them so that they have an opportunity to correct their poor judgment at the time they made the theft. With that, I will stand or sit for any questions you may have.
Council members, questions? Councilmember Knudsen.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. How do you sustain your business? I only see $75 for a class. What keeps, how do you keep this thing going?
Well, my wallet hurt a lot the first 5 years. I will say that. Scott and I put a lot of effort into it, and we gave our own personal money into the program because we believe in it. I have seen fifth-generation criminals when I was working at Dayton's, and I said, this is not working. The criminal justice system for shoplifting, there's got to be a better way to interrupt this activity, because once they start getting 2, 3, 4 arrests, public safety is dealing with them on a lot of different other issues besides shoplifting. We got to get to them quicker, and the way we do that is through the programs like this. We have multiple programs, and because of that, we do over 5,000 individuals a year. Now, that may not seem like a lot, but it is a lot of revenue at $75, and not all of them are $75. Some are higher, some are lower. So we're able to sustain ourselves over the years due to volume. So we're able to make sure that we're able to deliver the product to the cities and the counties that we work with.
Is there like ongoing casework? I'm trying to understand how this works.
The casework is when they come into the program, we enter them into our system. We track them on a number of phone calls that we make to them, schedule their, in this particular case, the theft diversion, we will schedule them for live training. We don't send them a video or, sign on. We do live training with our own trainers, and we have 20 employees now that work on all different types of cases, and we call it the theft or the SME program, which we will supervise and monitor them. So it's a pretty close tight-knit group of people that work with these individuals very closely. And if the individual during one of our sessions has other issues that they want to talk to us about, or we're a mandated reporter, we have to refer those to outside sources. We work with Team Challenge, Pathways, a lot of social service individuals to get them in the right, we coordinate a lot of that activity for them to be sure they don't reoffend is our mission.
Do some just leave the program? Because when you say you're 231 and 0 recidivists, I mean, do others just leave? There's no...
In general, we're seeing, we have a driving diversion program that you've actually, Maplewood has had for 10 years, I believe, is the number of years that you've been in diversion. And our rate overall, if you look at it, it's probably in the 95%. So it's a very high success rate. And I will say this, we hold them accountable. This is not something that is just a slap on the wrist. We get them involved.
So they go back into the court system then if they leave your program?
Correct. Okay. We will return them to the city attorney for formal charging.
So they're not really charged, so it's not like a stay. They're not charged, okay.
No, we're not wasting the court's time and so forth.
Thank you.
Yep.
Council members, any other questions? I want to commend our Public Safety Department for bringing this to the council. I think it really shows a commitment to our community. Just reading through the packet and the report, and I'm going to make this point because this is what really struck home to me is that, we're talking about misdemeanor theft. And once someone is issued a citation, then they are fully introduced into the criminal justice system, and they have a permanent theft conviction on their criminal history. A theft conviction can be life-altering and prevent someone from getting a job, renting a home, renting a residence, and being accepted into a certificate program, a college or university. One thing about this program is that it is voluntary on behalf of the business and also the victim, and it provides accountability for the offender and education for the offender. And it certainly, in my mind, is something that is a wonderful idea. It offers redemption under these circumstances or an opportunity for redemption.
Correct.
Obviously, people can reject it and wind up back into the court system, but thank you, Public Safety Department, for bringing this forward to the council, because I think that this is an excellent way to handle these kinds of low-level issues, to try to help people avoid going further along into our court system. So,
one final comment I'll make is that we found also in this program that the closer you are to the time that they committed the offense to the time that we can get them into the program, the much more successful we are. And that's primarily due to my partner, Scott Atkinson. He's been a firm believer. I wanted to delay it, give him a little more time, and he says, no, John, look at our data. The sooner we get them in, the more successful we're going to be. So we push ourselves extremely hard on our staff to make contact with these individuals if they haven't made contact with us. They can get them into the program. So therefore, if we do have to refer them, everything is fresh for the prosecutor to take a look at it and decide what they want to do with that case.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lieutenant Steiner, is there anything else you wanted to add?
I just want to thank John for his work on this and our civil city attorney, Ron Beatty, and our criminal city attorney, Joe Kelly. They did a lot of work in reviewing the contract and helping us get this implemented. Thank you.
Excellent. Can I ask one thing?
Sure.
What I would like to see, I'm definitely in favor of this. What I would like to see is a report on, and maybe after the first year, is that a reasonable time for you to come back, assuming that it's going to pass? I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads up here. But for you to come back and report to us and give us some of those numbers and tell us, how is this working? Is this really helping?
Most
Is that a reasonable amount of time, a year?
Most definitely.
Okay. So with that, council members, would anyone like to make that motion?
I move to approve the retail theft diversion program contract, excuse me, and
request a report to the council after 1 year.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave. The motion to approve the retail theft diversion program contract and report back to the council after 1 year. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes. Thank you very much, and thank you again, Public Safety Department, for bringing this to us. Next, we have the Lower Afton Apartments, 2501 London Lane, on our agenda. Mr. Thompson, back again.
Back again, same project. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll go back here. Now we are talking about the third part of our third action step related to the sale and the development of 2501 London Lane East, and that is the review and action on the development applications for the land use approvals. So as I've talked about earlier on the TIF application, this is a site that's owned by the city. It's just under 6 acres. It's about 5.9 acres in total size, and the city has a purchase agreement with the applicant for these approvals for the sale and the construction of the project. As we talked about back in March of this, the city's been marketing the site for sale for quite some time, but back in March we issued a solicitation of offers for the development community. And then ultimately, early summer, we entered into that purchase agreement with Real Estate Equities, and the project is the same project that they had proposed during that solicitation of offers, and ultimately that are included in the purchase agreement. So it's a 148-unit multifamily building. I'll talk a little bit about the unit mix. It's 3 stories in height, and then it's over 1 level of underground enclosed parking. There are 3 actions on the development side for the council's review this evening. The first is the zoning map amendment or the rezoning action. The second is a conditional use permit, and the third is design review. I'll talk about each of those, but I know in the neighborhood comments, the neighborhood meeting, and some of our conversations we've had with the neighborhood, there have been several questions about the unit mix and the type of affordable housing that will be constructed in the project. We just talked about that a little in the TIF hearing, but ultimately these are units that are at 60% of AMI, 80% AMI, and then 36 at market rate. And so that means that these units are available to households making anywhere from the income restricted units are available for households that are making anywhere from $63,000 to about $80,000 per year. So that's the type of housing that's being constructed. Again, as we talked about, the rents for the 60% AMI units range from $1,200, just under $1,200, to slightly over $1,600, and then the 80% AMI units range from $1,574 for the 1 bedrooms and just under $1,900 for the 2 bedrooms. And so this is the unit mix. The first 3 lines there are the 60% AMI units. Again, there's a mix of 25 1-bedrooms, 22 bedrooms, and 53 bedrooms. And there you can see those rents complying with that 60% AMI requirement of just under $1,200 up to just over $1,600. And then you can see the market rate rents are the last lines there, the 1486 and the 1811. So the site is guided in our comprehensive plan for high-density residential. That's a land use category that allows up to 25 units of housing per acre, or 25 units, dwelling units per acre. And the current zoning is farm residence. And that zoning is not consistent with the comp plan. And the reason behind that is, one, the farm zoning is in place because of the former fire station use. A lot of the city facilities and some in the schools, frankly, a lot of the kind of institutional public uses in the city have that farm residence zoning designation. And so it was consistent with that use as a fire station. But in 2019, when we adopted our new 2040 comprehensive plan, that's when we amended the land use designation for this site to high density, recognizing the market feasibility and the compatibility of that land use with that surrounding neighborhood. So included in the development application is a rezoning of the site to R3, which is our multifamily, multiple dwelling residential district. And in short, that's really just to bring the zoning in compliance with the land use, which is a requirement that we have to ensure that our land use plan is consistent with our zoning. It's certainly consistent with the surrounding land uses to the, there's varied uses to the north is the Battle Creek Park as well as the Ramsey County Correctional Facility, so they're zoned park and public institutional. To the west is Connemara, and they also have the same high density, same land use designation as this subject property. And then to the south you have a city park, and then some single family homes to the south and east. The second item that's being requested is a conditional use permit, and that's entirely related to the height of the proposed building. Our zoning ordinance throughout the city says that if a building exceeds 3 stories or 35 feet, either or, it requires a conditional use permit. In this case, the building is 3 stories, so it complies with that, but with the pitched roof and how we measure to the midpoint, it goes over that 35 feet, therefore requiring the conditional use permit. It could certainly be removed by just constructing the building with a flat roof, but I think when working with the design team, and certainly the consensus of the design review board was the character of the pitched roof was more appropriate for this area. So it's really that roof element that's driving that need for the conditional use permit. So this is the proposed site plan for the project. There is an existing access drive off of London Lane that was used for fire access, essentially, and that would be removed. And so both access, vehicular access for the property would now be located from London Lane. The easterly parking lot is a very small parking lot anticipated mostly for visitor parking. The primary parking for the site would be accessed through that westerly access drive off of London Lane because it provides access to the large parking lot, but also it's a sole location for access into the underground garage for resident parking. The building, I've noted the setbacks there just for your reference, but the building does comply and exceeds all of our minimum setback requirements that we have in the zoning district from property lines. I just want to highlight that there are a number of outdoor amenities which are very common with these types of developments in multifamily developments, and in fact we encourage outdoor recreational uses be constructed in residential projects, and so it includes a dog run. It has a small kind of tot lot for kids, and then there's also a patio kind of on the east side of the building. We've reviewed this in detail, both the outdoor amenities, the parking in the building, and all of those site plan amenities do comply with our ordinance requirements for setbacks. It's a 3-story building. There's a variety of building materials. But the primary ones are metal siding. There's cement fiberboard in various applications, both shakes as well as a lap application. There's kind of the lighter material is a cast stone, and then there's some limited use of kind of a rock face CMU along kind of the exposed areas of where the parking garage is above grade. And then the roof, as I mentioned, is pitched and would have asphalt shingles as a material. The unit sizes are large, and so they do comply with our minimum floor areas for unit sizes, and then the lighting plan has been submitted in detail, and we've reviewed that to ensure that there's not excess glare or spill off the site onto the adjacent properties, and do comply with our exterior lighting ordinance. In terms of parking, our ordinance requires 2 spaces per unit. At least one of those has to be enclosed, and that would require a total of 296 spaces, and they are meeting that with the 298, of which 151 would be in that underground garage and 147 in the 2 surface lots. The ordinance, talk a little bit about the tree removal. There are some trees on the property today. It's largely kind of, on the west side, largely kind of open grasslands. But there are some trees. They would be removing 13 of the existing trees on the site and then in place planting 79 new trees, which meets our replacement requirements under our tree preservation ordinance. I know there were a number of comments from the neighborhood. It was also discussed at the Planning Commission about screening. And so our ordinance requires screening of parking lots and in order mostly be related to just the visual, but also the glare from headlights that can occur from that. And so we've included that as a condition of the approval, that they will be required to meet our screening requirements. That could be accomplished through fencing, opaque fencing, or certainly through kind of vegetated buffer material or a combination thereof to provide that parking lot screening. We do know that it will need to, there is a pipeline easement that's being confined. Actually, the city has kind of led the confinement of the pipeline easement. And so there's some restrictions about plant materials in that easement. So we expect that the screening, to comply with the screening requirements, is really going to be kind of directly west of the parking lot. But that's up for the applicant to work on the landscape and site plan to ensure that it's properly located to provide the screening of the parking. We've had a couple questions about security fencing, or fencing for security purposes, and that's not something our ordinance does require between residential uses. We don't. It's more related to the visual impacts than it is from potential security issues. We asked the developer, just because we know there was a number of residents in the immediate area that were interested in the project, so they did hold a neighborhood meeting down at the Nature Center a while ago. That was back in August. That was the first time, or that was the first opportunity for the neighborhoods to kind of dialogue with the developer about the plans and answer some of the questions. You referenced that we sent those notices to 231 property owners in the area. There are 37 comments that were included in your staff report. As part of the neighborhood meeting, the Planning Commission and the neighborhood comments, we kind of pulled out the key concerns we heard, and that was the screening, which I've addressed, but also about stormwater and water management in general, as well as traffic impacts. So we did ask, we have John DeRoche here, our assistant city engineer. You can walk through some of the detailed information about particularly the stormwater management and the traffic components of the project.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm going to need that controller, though, for me, Jeff. But I'm here to, like Jeff said, talk to you about some of the engineering aspects of the project. So what you have on the screen here is the existing drainage pattern in the area of the London Lane Fire Station site. So those cyan-colored lines, those are the elevations in the area, your contour lines. The red arrows are the general flow path of the drainage within the project area, or within the area here. So the bottom right corner is the London Lane Fire Station site. In general, right now, the stormwater is controlled by a couple of catch basins to take a runoff off the parking lots, and it routes that to that what's called the existing storm sewer outlet on the screen. So the runoff from that then discharges kind of to the north and west, and that's basically a swale, a large swale that goes through the wooded area of the property north of Connemara and brings that runoff over to the pond just off of Lower Afton Road near McKnight Road. Overlaying the proposed site on top of that, that overall drainage pattern is going to continue should this development move forward. So the runoff from the site is going to continue to be directed into that swale system that heads to the west to that pond. And then zooming in a little closer on the site, the proposed storm sewer system in the developed state is looking to utilize a filtration basin at that northwest corner of the site. And what that'll do is improve the quality of the runoff coming off the site. So it's going to filter it through a sand filter media, get that through drain tile pipes, and then discharge it to the west. It'll also allow for the runoff from this site to back up and expand. It'll contain some of that runoff so it can be slowly metered out over time, reducing the runoff rates to the west. So overall, that same drainage pattern will continue after the development. One thing to note on this slide here, though, is the proposed storm sewer outlet is moving approximately 200 feet north of that existing storm sewer outlet. So that outlet is shifting to the north and away from the Connemara buildings. Maplewood stormwater standards do require that flow rates leaving a site after a redevelopment project are equal to or less than those rates beforehand. So on the left-hand column of this chart here, we're showing the storm events that Maplewood requires be modeled when a site is redeveloped. So we have the 2-year, the 10-year, and the 100-year event. And then on the far right-hand column, we're showing what the percent reduction in those flow rates leaving the site is in the developed state. So for your 2-year and your 10-year events, your most common events that happen, they're showing a 54% reduction for the one and a 44% reduction for the other. And then when you get up to the 100-year event, the more catastrophic event, they're also showing a slight reduction there. So they are meeting the city's stormwater management standards in reducing flow rates leaving the site. We also looked at the traffic and pedestrian situation with the development. So the city consulted with SEH Incorporated, and they performed a higher level traffic impact analysis for this project. They looked at the existing traffic volumes on both London Lane as well as Lower Afton Road, and they also estimated those after the development project. And they resulted in traffic from the project is expected to function acceptably on both Lower Afton Road as well as London Lane under the current intersection control. So in those existing conditions, they are saying that the traffic is expected to function acceptably. Just a note that staff did require a sidewalk along the London Lane frontage for this project. So that the idea there is to connect both that development as well as the general public, the general area, to the crosswalk on Lower Afton Road. And we also required that Ramsey County do a full review of the project as well in regards to impacts on Lower Afton Road. We did get some preliminary comments back from the county on the project. They are requiring a sidewalk along the south side of Lower Afton Road to again connect that development to the crosswalk across Lower Afton Road. They also required an enhanced crosswalk with a refuge island on Lower Afton Road, kind of acknowledging that it's a higher volume road, a higher speed road, giving the pedestrians a place to, should they need to, seek refuge in the center of the road before crossing safely. And they're also requiring that the developer analyze the traffic impacts on Lower Afton Road at London Lane to see if any changes are necessary to the configuration of that intersection. With that, we'll turn it back to Jeff.
Thanks for that. So Mayor and Council, just to wrap up the commission review, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on this at their meeting back in, it was in September. And they did recommend approval of the rezoning of the site. They did recommend denial of the conditional use permit related to height. In their discussion, we didn't hear a lot of concern about the building height or even the roof pitch. I think there was some concern from the commission about some of the unknown geotechnical groundwater issues. We've since added a condition into the resolution just to address that, noting that the building code has strict requirements for geotechnical analysis and design engineering for the foundation of the building, and that they'll need to comply with that. But that, just to forward on that Planning Commission concern and what we did to the resolution based on that. And then the Community Design Review Board, they reviewed this building and site design that's within their purview, and they did recommend approval of the design without any changes to the conditions that were included in your packet. You can just advance the next slide, John. So with that, staff is recommending approval of this development application with the conditions that are included in your resolutions, and I'm happy to answer any questions that we can for this project.
Thank you very much for your presentation. You know, this is a pretty complex issue. I don't recall a project that has come before us where we've gotten 37 comments from residents about this. And I appreciate your presentation and Mr. Jarosh's presentation. I see that the questions kind of revolve around several different topics. In terms of the water and the filtration and all of that, I think you've addressed those issues. I had a question about the safety issue that was raised in an email to the council today in terms of the sidewalks, enhanced crosswalks and such. You know, it's interesting because this really is proposed to be a family building, and it's a great location in terms of it being very close to, the county park and then the city park, Battle Creek and then Crestview, just really, really close. But the question is in terms of crosswalks and sidewalks and ensuring that while we can, that we make sure that that this particular project is as safe as possible. So when you're talking about, in your presentation, a preliminary Ramsey County review, what does that mean in terms of the sidewalk along the south side of Lower Afton Road, an enhanced crosswalk? Are those for certain that those are going to happen? And then analyze traffic impacts on Lower Afton at London Lane. What does preliminary Ramsey County review mean?
Sure, and I can start with just a high-level answer to it, and then Mr. Jarosh can answer some of the specific
Great.
comments from the county. So, agreed, because of the neighborhood meeting comments and the number of comments we were getting from the neighborhood, we thought it was important to engage the county early in the conversation about this development. And so we sent them the plans as soon as we could when we received the development application, specifically requesting that they review in detail the pedestrian and traffic impacts on London Lane, given that's the concerns that we were hearing from the neighborhood. So that's what's driving the preliminary comments from the county. It's not always our process, right? Oftentimes, we are coming through and we're saying they're going to have to meet the county's requirements regardless. We've just put a kind of a blanket condition in there. We wanted to have that conversation earlier with the county, which is why you're seeing the preliminary comments from the county. We still have to work through that with the developer and some of the additional analysis at the intersection that's needed. But the comments from the county are to say, certainly they're wanting the crosswalk also along Lower Afton Road, which I think the developer has said they are willing to do. There's a recognition that they need to look at that pedestrian crossing of Lower Afton, which is an existing crossing. And then, as I mentioned, the intersection analysis of Lower Afton and London.
Mr. Jarosh?
I don't know that I have much to add to what Mr. Thompson said there. So, I mean, these are the county's requirements, so we can't say at this time that they're set in stone by any means, but the developer is required to work with them and address any, requirements that they're going to have. I believe, like you said, the sidewalk, it sounds like, is a requirement, as well as that enhanced crossing, and then they're going to have to look at the intersection with London Lane and Lower Afton Road and analyze whether or not improvements are needed there. And I know they're in the process of working with the county on those requirements now.
Okay. So at this point, we believe that these issues will be addressed? Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Couple of other points, too. I know several of the residents made comments about, I don't know whether or not you're really reading these, and I can assure you, we read every single one of them. And one thing that popped out, too, was only in one location, one of the comments, about potholes down in that area. It seems to me that our Public Works Department, we can maybe add that area to some pothole repair before we wind up with snow plows happening here next month. We all know it's going to happen. But if we could address the potholes, that would really be important, too. That someone just mentioned the potholes, but I wanted to bring that up. I'm going to open it up to other questions from my fellow council members because I know that there are other questions. And I have some more, too, but I'm going to share the mic. Councilmember Knut, Councilmember Juniman, were you first?
Question first.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Mayor. Most of my comments, having read resident comments, had to do with the traffic control because I do believe the city is more than on top of them drainage issues, and they're long-standing. And from what I read here and what you've said, I think this is going to be one of those cases where anything we do and have these developers do will improve what's been happening down there, because that's been a kind of a bad situation. So I think it's bound to improve no matter what happens. And you're trying to read into it. But the whole traffic thing, first of all, let me share with the residents, if it relies on the county, hold your breath and cross your fingers. People like to think that we can do like, oh, we need a stoplight, we'll just drop it in. That's not how it goes. You put it in their hands and they do a traffic study and a traffic count and they decide. I presume none of them live on any of these streets, but nonetheless.
It's a county road. We don't have jurisdiction over it.
They do that with every stoplight, even the one on Wiper Avenue, so, they're the authority, apparently. But anyway, that involves time, which is why I think the mayor's been asking this. do they get it that one of the biggest concerns in the area is, people say it's the traffic, but it's more the flow of traffic and the safety of the whole thing when we add more cars. How long do we have to wait for them to come up with their great jurisdictional decision on London Lane and Lower Afton Road? Because several of these comments were about the speed and you take your life in your hands, and it's nice for them to talk about the refuge in the middle of the road if you need it, but that's really not covering what these people are asking about. And I'm not down there often, but when I am, I think, I might stay on the south side of the road because it's easier than trying to get to the north side of the road. And that's not how people should think about their neighborhood. And so I know you've gotten the county on board, but I do know that when pressure is applied, like heavily, like this, they respond kind of better. I know this from the Rice Larpenteur thing because they said the traffic changes on Rice and Larpenteur were going to take 10 years. Guess what? Some of them have already been done. So I'm just saying we need to tell them that this is not something you put in your stack and get back to it, and that these are genuine concerns, not just to the people who live there, but to those of us who had to make this decision. And it's not, I don't understand why they don't think it's of paramount importance to begin with, since it's a county road, and, did I mention Battle Creek Park? But anyway, I think they're out of sight, out of mind sometimes, so I think we need to bring their focus in to say, hey, these are ongoing concerns, and now we're just going to bring more people to the area, so we want these concerns addressed for real. And one of them is the speed on that road. I mean, I don't really remember what it's posted, but is it 40 or 50, but it's like 20 miles an hour too fast. I mean, people, because they add on, they don't go the speed limit, they go beyond that. And so I just think we need to make it very clear to them that in order for us to redevelop in our community safely in this particular project, they need to pay some attention to this and make some significant contribution. I volunteer if they don't want to listen to you. They see me come and they'll say yes just to get me away from there.
Is there anything else?
Yeah, one, the berm, or the separation, or whatever you want to call it. The screen. Having sat here all these many years, sometimes when you have a really important screening issue, and we've had, some are bigger deal than others, and we had one other, 12, 15 years ago now, and we finally came up with a berm with a fence, which may sound redundant, but if that's what works the best, then I suggest we start talking to the developers about possibly looking at that as the solution. Because we do care about our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Councilmember Knudsen, and then Councilmember Cave.
Councilor Cave. I was just pointing to Councilmember
okay.
Cave.
Councilmember Cave.
Thank you. I know I'm way over here. Without reiterating everything that my fellow council members said, I would agree 100% with them. I think safety down there is a top priority. I know we've said it to you. We've said it to about Ramsey County. I do think Ramsey County, once again, we have to really push them. They finally got the light in on Valley Creek, which took forever. And now this is just another huge development that redevelopment we're going to put in. And the families down there and the parks down there, it's a lot of traffic. So I think that's my top priority, is making sure, like everyone else, that this is done properly, because there's going to be so much traffic coming out of London Lane and Lower Afton. And we just have to make sure we do the right thing. And so when we proceed with this, I want to make sure that that's what we're doing.
Councilmember Knudsen, did you have anything you wanted to add?
I just had a question. Was your engineering just recently done based on these comments and so forth?
Yes, it's a great question, Councilmember. So the traffic study utilized traffic data from 2019, so prior to the pandemic, and then forecasted forward with that data. So it didn't include data that was lower traffic volume seen during the pandemic.
Thank you.
The developer is here as well, I believe. Let's see if they would like to address the council. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for having me. Mayor, council members, I'm Alex Bazans. I'm a partner with Real Estate Equities, and I've got somewhat of a brief presentation just to kind of go over, just to give you a little more background on the project, even though I know you guys know a lot about it now. So the first slide here is just a rendering. Lower Afton Apartments shows you just the exterior look of the building that we've proposed to build on the site. And I don't have a click. Oh, is there a clicker right here? Oh, there we go. Oh, look at that. Okay, just a little background on our company. So Real Estate Equities has been around for 50 years. We're based in St. Paul, Minnesota. We own and manage a little bit over 4,000 apartment units, primarily in Minnesota. We also have some properties in Indiana and Wisconsin. Throughout the course of our company's history, we've done an excess of 70 projects and over 12,000 housing units, primarily throughout the Midwest. We own, manage, and develop these properties long-term. That's another aspect of our company that may be different from others. This next slide is just some examples of other projects that we've recently built in the last couple of years. Spring House is 168 units of workforce housing that we just completed in Coon Rapids. Eastgate's 135 units of workforce housing that we did in Rochester that we completed about 2 years ago. Sonder House is 127 units in Brooklyn Center, also workforce housing that we just completed this year. And then the Winslow is actually 172 units of senior affordable housing in West St. Paul. The next slide just shows a couple of the different elevations architecturally of the building facade to show you some different angles. Again, I know Jeff's presentation went over some of the exterior products that are being built, but some of the exterior materials are the stone facade, LP panels, and as well as metal panels. This slide shows just the site plan, the colored site plan, as well as the unit mix. So the unit mix for the project is going to be 72 one-bedroom units, it's 61 two-bedroom units, and 15 three-bedroom units, totaling 148 units. In terms of parking on site, we have 303 stalls, which is a 2.05 stalls per unit parking ratio, which we feel is very sufficient for this product type. This next slide just kind of lists out some of the amenities, both unit amenities, community amenities, as well as some of the sustainable building elements. So in terms of the units, we build these units with high-quality cabinets. We use hard surface countertops. We do in-unit washers and dryers. We do luxury vinyl plank flooring. And the units, or each floor is 9-foot ceiling height. Community amenities, we have a community patio, we have a club room, fitness center, playground, outdoor, we call it a tot lot for kids, and also a dog run. Some of the sustainable building elements that we have are LED light fixtures, Energy Star appliances, and energy efficient windows, high efficiency mechanical systems, as well as low VOC paints and adhesives. This is just kind of an example of the original rendering and some of the revisions that we made after the CDRB feedback, the Design Review Board feedback. So one of the main things that they pointed out was just having some kind of color differentiation with a band around the perimeter of the building. So what we did was we added, so there's a block base around the building. So we added another kind of layer of block that's a different color to kind of break the facades a little bit. So that breaks up just the stone base, or the block base from the stone facades. So that was one of the bigger changes that they requested that was made. And in doing that, we kind of realized that the balconies would look better as a darker color than staying white. So those were kind of the two main changes you could see on those renderings.
Community Design Review does a very nice job for us.
They do.
They do.
They absolutely do.
Yeah, they pay a lot of attention.
Yeah. This is just kind of a quick background. Again, a lot of this information you guys have heard tonight. This just kind of lists out some of the income levels and rent levels for the building. So again, 40% of the units are going to be limited to the 60% area median income rent levels, which based on our market data and research, shows about a $300 to $400 discount from other comparable newer construction market rate properties in the area. One-bedroom rents are $1,103, two-bedroom rents at $1,322, and three-bedroom rents at $1,523 today. In addition to that, actually 40% of the units will be restricted to 80% AMI. Those income levels, or those rent levels are, again, $1,350 for one bedrooms, and then $1,675 for two bedrooms. And then the remaining 20% of the units will be market rate. So what we really like is that it serves a number of different income thresholds and rent levels as a mixed income product versus just all the units at 60% AMI or everything at market rate. So we're very happy about that. And with that, I'm definitely open to answer any questions that anyone has. Happy to stay up here, and so.
You know, one of the things that I noticed in at least some of the comments was a concern that I think typically comes up in developments when we have a developer who develops and then there's no follow-up management. Tell me what your company does in terms of you're proposing to develop this project, but you also manage your project. I think that's a great benefit.
Yeah, so we do. So we are long-term owners and managers. So we manage all of our own property. We do a small amount of third-party management, but the majority of what we do is manage our own assets that we develop and own. So as long as we own this property, we will manage the property.
Okay. Council members, do you have any other questions?
I should also mention, too, our partner on this project is a social impact investor. And so we have a minimum agreement with them to own this property for 10 years, just to provide a little more background on that in terms of long-term ownership. We're not a merchant builder that builds projects and sells them in 2 or 3 years.
I think that certainly affords stability in projects and make sure that they're maintained well. So thank you for that. Any other questions, council members? Then we have 3. Oh, you know what? I know that there were some individuals here that may have wanted to, we don't have a public hearing opportunity, but if there's individuals that have stayed and would like to talk to the council, we certainly would invite them to come up if you'd like to say something to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to come up and join us? Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
Yeah, my name is Herb Getch. I'm a retired engineer from 3M from 35 years. When John Jaros came over and walked the edge of the property with me, I live over at Connemara 2, but my friends here are at Connemara 1, and we've got water intrusion problems, and it starts, water runs downhill, as everybody knows, right? So that's the biggest issue is the water runoff. But we really like these guys, just like you do, and maybe I'll end up living there if they'd sell me one. But anyway, in the water runoff study, he talked about the 100-year rainfall, and I experienced one of those 100-year rain back in 2005. I pulled it out of the data for him because I remembered it. But anyway. It was about 8 or 9 inches we got. I lived over in Park Hills, so I moved about 2 miles, and I changed cities, I changed zip codes, and changed, whatever. Yeah. So anyway, so I know the area because I've lived here since 1971, yeah. Anyway, as far as the water runoff, the only concern remaining is how the contractor is going to deal with the gas company about running that water over the top of that gas line. We need to harden some kind of a swale because we've got a culvert that goes underneath. It used to be a road that came off of, I think it came off of Lower Afton to the back of Connemara 1. There's actually a road there, and John walked it with me. And so we cleaned up that area so that the water can run and get to that culvert. But getting the water from their big pond and that overflow over the top of that gas line, he says that they're going to build up the pond to the point where the drain tile is going to actually be at the level of the that goes over the top of the gas line. But we have to make sure that that happens. But I'm just wondering what the gas line people are going to say about that. So we have to make sure that something happens there. As far as the traffic, I'm glad, Madam Mayor, you brought up about the potholes, because I've been dodging those. Usually in the springtime, when you try to make a left turn in London Lane there, you're dodging potholes and traffic's trying to go around you there, and you almost get hit. So we really, if we could have a phone number, if you call people when those things appear.
You know what, we do have something on our website where all you have to go is onto the website and you can report potholes.
All right, we'll do that. The other,
Pardon me? We're, yes.
oh, fix it, it's
Yeah,
called
fix
Fix It,
it.
all right.
It's new.
Thank you very much. Fix it.
All right,
So you can report it, and I will tell you, our Public Works Department comes out very quickly and takes care of those things.
yeah. As far as the traffic, they were wondering about continuing to allow no parking on London Lane there, because with all of the units there, you think people are going to start parking there, and that people walk there from our place, and people come up the hill from the shopping center down at what do they call it? McKnight, what do they call it? Halal Market down there. But anyway, so there's a lot of walkers going up and down the street there. So we need to maintain the side of the road so that people aren't parking there. Maybe put no parking signs up, because I would think when you have 148 units and visitors come and everything's full, they're going to want to park on the street there. They're going to be tempted. So that's something else that's been mentioned. As far as security, we've got a lot of older people. It's a 50, Connemara 1 is a 55, and I just moved into the thing a couple of years ago, but there's a lot of people on walkers and wheelchairs. And I thought, what am I moving into here? So, but anyway, it's very nice, but we need to make sure that teenagers and young toddlers don't wander in, because we have a swimming pool way on the other end of the, right behind Connemara 2. So we have to be sure we don't want any incident. We've got big gates and everything locked up, so we're good that way, but we still are concerned about people wandering in that woods and getting lost and that kind of thing. My wife was at the pool here, I think it was last year, when some teenagers they stole some golf carts, and they come up to the swimming pool and say, hey, can we come in and use your bathroom? No. So she called the police right away. They came out and caught up to them and arrested them. But so it's pretty open there. People can come and create havoc, and we've got older people there that we're concerned about. So the other thing the last thing is that people are concerned about the dog run placement, that we don't put it. So sometimes the dog runs get to be a place where dogs relieve themselves, and it's not a pretty place. So it's not a dog run, it's more of a dog relieving place. So I don't know. Maybe we could put it to the back of the property, away from the road maybe. So I don't know. But not close to our property. So that's all I have, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Couple of questions. Mr. Jarosz, do you want to talk about the water runoff and the drain tiles in comparison to the location of the gas lines?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, Council, and thank you, Herb, for Mr. Getch, for walking me through the site the other day. It was really helpful and really understanding their concerns. So he was correct. The discharge from that infiltration or that filtration basin is going to be coming out at the current ground level. They're basically building up a berm to hold back the water on the site. So the water is going to come out at the existing ground level. It will flow slowly over the Magellan pipeline easement and then to the swales to the west that I showed earlier. The outlet system will be designed with a riprap or a rock basin near that outlet pipe, and the idea behind that is to dissipate that runoff, to slow it down and prevent erosion, prevent scour from happening at that outlet. So what they have shown, I believe, will adequately take care of that concern of his. Do you want me to answer any of the other?
Yes. Would you, I was taking notes, parking on London Lane.
So parking on London, yes. So parking, there is an 8-foot wide striped lane on the north side of London Lane. We installed that back in 2018 when we rehabilitated London Lane. we actually narrowed up the lanes on London Lane by a foot to try to induce some traffic calming on that segment of roadway. And in doing so, we were able to achieve an 8-foot parking. It's more of a shared use lane on the north side, so there can be parking. Pedestrians can walk on that. Bicyclists can utilize it as well. So there is an 8-foot wide lane that is wide enough to accommodate parking at this time.
Did you, security, certainly that is something I think for management to be cognizant of, but we certainly can't, as a council, anticipate. That's just not something that we can do. Also, about the dog run, that's really, I like to hear that they're going to be managing the property. That's something that they have to take care of in terms of managing the dog run and what they're going to do there. Mr. Giroux, did you write down any other questions?
I would just note the potholes. Like I said, we rehabilitated London Lane in 2018. So I believe the potholes he's referring to are on Lower Afton Road. So we will yes. So I will contact the county about that and get them on that.
But Kathy, can Kathy?
There you go. And
Well, it's.
and Mr. Jarosh, I'm sure, we know that you have a very good working relationship with the county, and we know that you will follow through on that in terms of the potholes, so thank you for that. Is there anyone else from the area who would like to talk to the council? Good evening.
Good evening. John Parnell, Connemara 1. London Lane is a 30-mile-an-hour street. Well, I'll tell you what, you're losing a lot of money because they're sure going a lot faster than that. And you had stated that it's okay to park on the north side. Is that what you're saying? Nobody parks on it. Nobody. There is no parking on it. A while back when we had our parking lot worked on, people parked up there and the police made them move. And when we were at the meeting before, they stated that the way it's set up, it's not wide enough. And I believe that this builder is a good builder, but there isn't enough parking. And I feel that it should be posted no parking on the north side. The south side is posted for no parking. You can't believe the amount of people that walk on the north side. I walk in the morning, I walk the north side, and then when I come home, I walk the south side because you're supposed to walk against your cars so they can see you. I think you're trying to do the best you can with the problems that we have.
Can I ask Mr. Jarosh, the sidewalk that the builder has agreed to put in, will that address the concerns that this gentleman is bringing to us?
Mayor, Council, so the sidewalk that the developer is proposing to install would address the concerns along their frontage. It's not going to be extended down London Lane by any means.
Okay.
The idea there would be that in the future, as things redevelop in the area, or more improvements are made to the roadway, more of a full-type reconstruction project, that sidewalk will get extended towards McKnight Road.
Okay.
It's a tough one.
Pardon me?
It's a tough one.
It is. I'm going to ask Public Safety Director Beardeman to weigh in on the issue of speeding down there. If it's posted 30 miles an hour and you're observing speed that's faster, that's something. Has anyone contacted the Public Safety Department about that?
You know, one day I was walking in the evening and two cars came. I wouldn't say they were police officers anyway. One parked one way and one parked the other way in the parking lot of the fire barn. They shot the breeze. They weren't concerned about the speed at all. I mean, there's motorcycles that can hit 80 miles an hour down there. There's cars that are hitting 80 miles an hour down there. That's the God's truth. It's a joke. We're lucky that somebody hasn't got killed. Thank you.
Okay. Chief Beardeman, do you want to comment concerning the speeding on London Lane?
Certainly. We have not, at a mayor council, we have not had recent complaints, but we do obviously patrol all parts of the city, and I know that as one spot officers will sit more towards the McKnight side on the hill, but we can certainly do a study down there. We can also have some mitigation efforts as far as putting up speed trailers and things of that nature that will document and calculate speeds and give us an average of kind of what's going on down there and work from that point on.
Thank you very much. And how can we get that information back to kind of the residents, just basically by them seeing you out there or reporting it back to us maybe? Can we do that?
Yeah, I can give you a report back.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the council? Any other questions from my fellow council members? Then, council members, we have 3 motions in front of us. Would someone like to make a motion?
Let's see, a motion to approve the ordinance amending the city zoning map to rezone the property from F farm residence to R3 multiple dwelling.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve an ordinance amending the city's zoning map to rezone the property from F farm residence to R3 multiple dwelling. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes.
Madam Mayor, we might want to note that Nikki's not here.
Thank you. The next motion to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit. This is concerning the roof. Mr.
Roof
Thompson, is that correct? It's concerning the roof height?
Correct.
Because it's a peaked roof and not a flat roof?
That's correct.
Okay.
Motion to approve the resolution for a conditional use permit.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve a resolution for a conditional use permit. Any further discussion? Hearing none, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Once again, Councilmember Villavicencio is not here. And the last motion to approve the resolution for design review.
Motion to approve the resolution for design review.
Second.
Moved by Knutson, seconded by Juniman, the motion to approve a resolution for design review. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
No? The motion passes. Welcome and to the developer and manager of our new property down on London Lane. What I'd like to say is that obviously there are a lot of moving pieces to this. And I think that we certainly are very well aware of what the issues are, and we're certainly going to be paying very close attention to them. I think that this project will be a real asset to the neighborhood down there. I think that we recognize that we've got some work to do on some of these things in terms of the potholes, in terms of, checking on the speed. I think that in terms of the water mitigation, I think that you will see that this is not going to certainly make the Connemara water issues any worse. And my hope is that it's actually going to make it better, that this will be a nice project. I really like the idea that this is a developer manager because they are invested in this property, and I think that it will be an asset to our community. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you, Mayor. Kind of what she said, but now that you were here and heard their concerns, we would really appreciate if you really zero in on their concerns so that you become a welcome neighbor.
That's important. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And we have another issue, the wetland buffer variance resolution, single-family house at 1091 County Road C. Ms. Finwall, this is your project.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. So tonight we're here to discuss a wetland buffer variance for 1091 County Road C. This is a 45-foot wetland buffer variance for a new single-family house. The property is owned by Katie Schur and Justin Haynes, who are here tonight. As you can see, the property is located on Coleman Lake, which is within the Shoreland Overlay District for Coleman Lake. There's also a Manage A wetland adjacent Coleman Lake to the north of the property. There was a previous house on the lot. It was built in 1938. And then in 2020, the city approved a demolition permit to remove this small home. And now the applicants are proposing to construct a new single-family house on this lot. They had a wetland delineation complete, and as you can see on the map here, it does show the location of that edge of the wetland. The city code does require a 75-foot buffer adjacent a Manage A wetland that is adjacent a lake. So no building, mowing, or grading can occur within that 75 feet. I want to walk you through the site here with a few pictures. So here we're looking at the front of the lot on County Road C. Now we're looking towards the back, toward Coleman Lake, and you can see how the lot drops down from where the previous house was constructed. And then now we're looking from the backyard up towards County Road C, and again you can see the grade there. It's quite substantial. This is the site plan that was submitted for the proposal, and it does show the ordinary high water mark in the light blue, the edge of the wetland in the dark blue, and the 75-foot wetland buffer that is required in that green color. And the applicants have done a very good job at attempting to maintain the required setback. You can see that the house is within that 75-foot setback. However, in order to accommodate the grades in the back, they will have to do some grading, and that grading is what's coming within the wetland buffer. So that'll, at its closest point, will be 30 feet, requiring that 45-foot wetland buffer variance. The rest of the setbacks meet city code requirements. There's a requirement for the front yard setback to be in line with the existing homes, and one home is closer at 24 feet and the other one is further back at 75 feet. So they're proposing that 24-foot setback. Of course, that will help with the keeping away from the wetland. The side yard setbacks are 10 feet for living structure and 5 for an attached garage, and they're maintaining 10 feet on both sides of the lot. And then the rear yard setback for a home in that Shoreland Overlay District is 75 feet to the ordinary high water mark, which they exceed. It's probably about 250 feet. And then again, the grading can't encroach closer to that 75 feet to the wetland buffer, and that is, again, where they need the variance. So the the new single-family home is attractive, architecturally designed. You'll note that the scale and mass of the building fits into the lot and the surroundings. And this particular home is being proposed with horizontal lap siding, a decorative batten board. In some areas, it will have an architectural asphalt roof, a metal seam standing roof above the porch. And, well, you can just see that there's a lot of decorative elements being proposed. And then towards the back, the lake view, you can see they're capturing that with all those windows. So this proposal did go to our Environmental and Natural Resources Commission. They reviewed the mitigation strategies required for the encroachment. And what they determined is that, and I'll show this map here, the wetland buffer map. You can see that there's a pre-existing mowed lawn that's already encroached into that actual wetland, where you can see the green line and then the grass and then the cattails, which of course is a wetland. So that we have determined to be about 1,000 square feet. So the Environmental Commission is recommending 1,000 square foot wetland buffer planting to include native plants along that area. And the applicants are working with Ramsey Washington Metro Watershed District to come up with an appropriate plan for that. And Then, that was in September, and then the Planning Commission held a public hearing on October 19th, and we had notified all the property owners within 500 feet. We did receive a few comments that were included in the packet. Most were in support. There were some concerns from the neighbor across the street about, the new look of this home compared to that, smaller scale house that we had saw in the original. So with that, the Environmental Commission and the Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval of the 45-foot wetland buffer variance for 1091 County Road C with the conditions that are outlined in the variance resolution, which will also include that submittal of the wetland buffer native planting plan prior to issuance of a grading plan. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. And again, the applicants are here tonight.
We'll give them an opportunity in just a moment. I see a question from Councilmember Juniman.
Oh, there's a shock. Well, you know me and the word variance, my hair gets curly, and trust me, it hasn't been curly for over 70 years. But on your recommendation and the Environmental and Natural Resources Commission, I'm leaning toward this, but are we going to monitor the native plantings to make sure they are actually done according to the plan and kept going? Because sometimes those are tough to get their feet in the sand, shall we say.
It's true. Yes, thank you. So the city will review and approve the plan, and then we take in an escrow to ensure the plants are planted, and once they're established, we release that escrow. So, we do monitor. We don't require a maintenance agreement where we haven't with single-family homes. We do with commercial developments like CarMax and some of the other car dealers who have constructed closer to the wetland, and we're required to do wetland buffer plantings. So what I can tell you is that we review the plan, approve the plan, inspect the plantings, and ensure they're prospering before we release that escrow.
Because that takes at least a year to get them established.
3.
Actually, I believe it's 3 years.
3 years.
So
to
are we
ensure.
gonna-
So there's constant maintenance for
do
that
we
3
check-
years.
Okay. That's all I wanted. Thank you.
Pardon me, yes. The Watershed District also, since they are approving the plan, now if they were required to do, if they were getting a grant from the Watershed District, they would require an agreement. However, since this is a variance and it's being required, they're not eligible for that grant funding.
Bummer.
But nonetheless, the Watershed District will also help monitor the plantings.
Okay. Councilmember Cave, and then Councilmember Knudsen.
I was just going to comment that I think this is a very, it's a very great house. The whole wetland piece, I mean, Sean, great job with all that. That's really a, and when I see, like Kathy said, when there's something done to a property and, that your committee and your staff have said, this is what we need to do, this is, and you have the property owner, yes, this is what we're going to do, and put it back to with the native planting, I think that's great. And what a better spot. I mean, that's such a great spot to do that. And I don't have my picture here, so I'm kind of squinting over there. But I just wanted to just comment on staff, just working with them. Great job. Thank you.
Councilmember Knudsen.
I just noticed that the neighbor's dock is on your property. How does that work?
Maybe they
Just-
won't need their own then.
No, I'm sit in as liaison of the Planning Commission. This is a very well-done plan, and I got my support.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Finmal. The residents, if you want to come up and talk to us. Did you know that about your neighbor's dock?
Come up at every meeting, yes.
Just checking.
Yeah, we've actually.
Do you want to give us your names for the record, please?
Justin Haynes. Hi, Katie Scher.
Welcome.
Yeah, so, I mean, as the plans were discussed, we have been in contact with our next door neighbor. They purchased the home with the dock like that, so they were not aware until they moved in, but they have been very gracious and understanding that at the time of which we plan to put in a dock, if there's any issues with that, they are willing to make any amendments to that as well. The dock is old, so they're actually looking for a reason to replace it anyway. So we will definitely be working with them to remedy that situation in the near future. And then, yeah, the property is family property, so we're looking to come into the neighborhood and actually add value. So we do very much care about the health and well-being of the wetland as well as the lake area. So, we're happy to adhere to the requirements laid forth and obviously continue that because definitely care about the neighborhood.
Yeah, so it was my great uncle Neil who lived in that property, and he lived there for many, many years, as you heard. I spent a lot of Christmas Eves at that house. So certainly we're very invested. My family, actually my mom grew up on this side of the lake as well. So a lot of my family owned property here. And so this was going to be the end of our family on the lake. And so we're very excited that we are going to continue the McClellan and Kopesky tradition of living on Lake Coleman. So it may not be as big and as impactful as the redevelopment that you just discussed, but we certainly, I'm sure, are just as excited about hopefully getting this variance as the developer was to get his approval.
It's very important to you.
Yes.
And it's important to us because
Yes.
we really care about the environment. And so
Yep.
thank you for your willingness to do the natural plantings, and I really appreciate that.
I planted 8,000 natural plants up at my lake home, and it's amazing what these natural plants do. The roots go down deep.
Yes.
They need
I
about
think he's volunteering to help.
They need about 3 years to do really well, but they're very important, and so we appreciate you.
Good for water quality. We appreciate it. So thank you very much. Council members, we have a motion before us. Would someone like
I
to
move
make it?
approval of the wetland buffer variance resolution, single family house, 1091 County Road C.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Cave, the motion to approve a resolution for a 45-foot wetland buffer variance for a new single-family house at 1091 County Road C. Is there any further discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion passes. Council members, we got a lot of work done tonight. There you go. You've got your new house over there on Coleman. I'm looking forward to watching it go up. It'll be very pretty, I'm sure. So with that, council members, we have concluded our agenda, and we are adjourned. Thank you, council members. Am I finding a way?